Hello and welcome to yet another episode of DisruptX Impact Series focused on the future of agri-tech. Joining me for this episode is Ravishankar Shiroor, co-founder and COO of Stellapps, an India-based startup that leverages the power of technology to improve dairy supply chain parameters.
Ravi, a very warm welcome to DisruptX. Although we couldn't have you at the studio, but it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Glad to be here on your show. Thank you.
And we're very eager to know more about Stellapps, but allow me to start with the kind of evolution you've seen in the Indian agri-tech landscape.
So Indian agri-tech landscape, when we started about 11 years back, was very sparse. There was not too much, tech happening in the Indian agri or dairy sector. India is a very, very heavy agri-centered economy, but still much tech was happening in that space, but now the pace has picked up. In the last 3 to 4 years, a lot of things are happening in the Indian agri-tech space. There are many startups and there are many established companies who are trying to apply tech in the Indian agri, dairy, poultry, livestock domain. A lot of experiments are being done, how to increase the profitability of the farmer, how to get better market linkage for the farmers, how to improve the quality, how to provide traceability. A lot of tech is happening in these space. Experiments are happening in almost all areas, including market linkage, agri imports, animal trading, payments. There are many startups and established companies who are trying to bring technology into all these possible areas. Things like artificial intelligence, cloud-based, IoT, etc. are coming in, which is very the path that we took about 10-11 years back is really picking up now, and I think the farmers are going to benefit a lot. It's moving in an extremely fast pace, and it's covering a lot of states in India today.
Absolutely. The kind of developments are really inspiring. You've actually, summarized very beautifully. But if I have to ask you, are there any inspiring examples from, say, agri-tech or dairy farming landscape, that you would like to particularly mention, ones that are really making a difference in the lives of farmers as well as in the lives of consumers, also sort of beneficial for businesses?
Sure. There are many instances. Let me take, I can't say one is better than the other. Let me take a few examples, okay? One example, let's say, about the traceability of the, inputs. Let me take an example of organic dairy. Okay, one of our customers called as Akshay Kalpa, they are making a lot of inroads in getting good organic milk into the market. They are not only giving consumers a much better product to consume, but they are also able to make a big difference to the farmers as well. Farmers are able to make a good income in terms of making 50,000 to 1 lakh rupee per month from about 5 acres of land, and without doing too much of drudgery, right? I mean, usually dairy is seen as drudgery, but without doing too much of drudgery, how can farmers earn a decent income by providing organic milk input to the customers? Another example is MooPay. For example, MooPay is all about providing payments to the farmers to their bank accounts directly by eliminating a lot of middlemen. right? So
Could
payments
you
are hitting the farmers.
elaborate a little bit on MUPE? This, I would have asked you this a little bit
Uh-huh.
into the interview, but that's a very beautiful integration between agri-tech and fintech. And
Mhm.
it is a great example of how technology is being leveraged for good, because it kind of empowers the farmer community. Uh, if you can please elaborate a little bit on that, on the concept itself
Sure,
and
sure.
how it's doing, what it's doing.
Sure, sure. MUPE is a culmination of a few different ideas in the fintech for rural or agri. Okay, one concept is that how do we make the payment into the farmer's bank account directly? Okay,
Right.
so there are the white revolution has happened in India. India is the #1 milk producer in the country, but very few dairy companies are able to directly pay the farmers dues into the farmers account on of payment. Okay, many middlemen come into the picture. Many times cash transactions happen, a lot of
Mhm.
delays happen.
Mhm.
Farmers don't know exactly how much was due to them and how much was paid. One of the concepts of MUPE is that be transparently make the payment into the farmer's account on the day of the payment. Some of our customers like Bhilwara Milk Union from Rajasthan, or Paras Dairy from Madhya Pradesh and UP, which is also called as BRS, or Mumar, or Greenfield Dairy. They are making payments to their farmers' bank account on the day of the payment directly into the account. So that is one. Second thing is that this enables the farmers to get a lot of credit services. Okay, many of the farmers are new to credit. If they walk into a bank, or if they go to NBFC and try to get a loan, it's very difficult to get a credit scoring for them. Okay, what MUPE does is that it is building a parallel credit scoring mechanism for the farmers based on the milk that is being poured, based on the consistency on at which they pour the milk, the quality of the milk, etc. MUPE is able to build a good credit score for the farmers and say that, hey, farmer, you are eligible for 10,000 rupee loan, or you are eligible for a 50,000 rupee cattle loan. It looks like you already have 3 cattle and you seem to be looking after your cattle well. So maybe it's time for you to buy a 4th cattle, and here is the loan based on your moose score that you have built up in the last 3 months with us. Right. So this enables the farmer to get a loan at his or her doorstep in the village. They don't have to go to the banks, fill up a lot of forms, etc.
This
Right.
is
So there are
truly
different.
inspiring.
Yeah. So that is the MUPE, and also things like insurance, right? I mean, many times insurance companies want to reach out to farmers, provide them insurance, but insurance companies don't know how to assess the risk involved with a certain thing that is being insured. So MUPE is bringing in insurance partners and saying, look, I know this farmer, I know how this farmer is following certain protocols. Therefore, you could lend your insurance service to this farmer up to this limit. So different kind of fintech services we are able to bring to the farmers step at the village. Farmers doesn't even have to leave their village to get many of these services. MUPE is an example. If I can take another example apart from MUPE, let us say cold chain monitoring is another example. Okay, in India, the cold chain was limited to what is known as chilling centers for dairy companies. Right, milk used to be chilled only at the chilling center, but with the World Bank's assistance, more and more milk chillers are being deployed at the village level. But there is no easy of tracking at what time the chiller was turning on, what time the chiller was turning off. Did it use diesel, or was it using the electricity? How much diesel amount to be paid to the person who's operating it? Was the chiller cleaned thoroughly after milk, one batch of milk is taken and the next batch of milk is poured in. There is no easy way for customers to know, right? Let's take the example of Belgaum Milk Union or a Mysore Milk Union. They have thousands of bulk milk coolers in their operational areas, and there is no easy way for them to know, is the milk chilled to the appropriate temperature, degrees centigrade, within the given amount of time? Was it cleaned as per the protocol set by them? Are they spending the right money on the diesel used for the fuel consumed, etc.? There is no easy way to know. Now with the technologies that were being deployed on the milk cold chain, people are able to very easily know what is the optimum usage of these chillers. Just another example, since we're talking about the examples of.
That's fantastic. And on that note, we move over to Stellapps. If you could please tell us a little bit about Stellapps and how, this startup is actually making the whole dairy ecosystem agile.
Sure. Stellapps, we started 11 years back. We were incubated by IIT Madras. And we started with the thought of technology to the Indian economy, and started the dairy sector as the first use case. And when we started, frankly, we didn't know how big the dairy sector was, being from a technical background. For us, dairy sector was not, at that time visible as this big a potential. And we somehow started in the dairy sector, applying IoT as a technology. And then it opened up in front of our eyes how big the dairy sector is, right? I mean, India's dairy, livestock, all that together, if you take, it's almost about 7.5 to 8% of India's GDP, right? It's $200 billion business every year. So we started applying our technologies in the dairy sector, starting from cattle, farm, milk collection, milk pouring, milk, chilling, and the entire supply chain till the processing plant. So we have been developing solutions that can, help the farmer to look after his cattle better, to get more profitability from the cattle, to make sure that the farmer is getting a transparent rate for the milk he or she is producing. Get paid on time, get more assistance, etc. So that's what we have been doing, and we are in about 13 states in India today. We have more than 200 customers who are using our solutions. We usually approach the farmers in a B2B2F way. We approach the dairy companies which are already have a relation with the farmers, and through them we work with the farmers. We provide our digital technologies to the dairy companies in the as extension services or transparent milk procurement, payment systems, or cold chain monitoring, the entire supply chain tracking. So that's what we have been doing in the last 11 years. We are in about 13 states. We have more than 700 people working for us in different states. And we are making more and more inroads in the dairy industry.
That sounds really good. But over this last decade, Ravi, what have been some of your major challenges that you had to navigate?
The first challenge was the infrastructural challenge. In terms of our technology has to work in the rural areas where there is no reliable power supply. Even the network coverage is not always great. You may have 2G network, you may have 3G network, you may have no network many days, and some days you will get a little bit of a coverage. power supply is not very regulated. Sometimes, days together, you may have power supply, you may not have power supply. Voltage may not be very steady. Technology may have to run on diesel generators, etc. Users are not always very educated users, and it could be very dusty environment. Our technology could be exposed to nature. I mean, it could be used in an area where rain falls on some of our hardware that has been deployed in the field, etc. And also the other challenge is that Indian farmers are usually very small farmers. Okay, if you go to advanced markets, farmers are fairly big. Okay, I mean, if you go to Europe, for example, on an average, a farmer has about 100 cows. If you talk about a dairy farmer, in India, on an average, a farmer has about 3 cows. So the affordability is also very low. You have to not only give a very robust technology that works in a very unpredictable condition, but also at a cost that is very small per farmer. Okay, so these are all different challenges that we found in our initial days of operations.
Sure. And on that note, my last question to you, we can see from your journey itself how the landscape has evolved, over the last decade, particularly over the last 3 to 5 years. Now, if you look at the turn of the decade, by then, what do you expect to change in the Indian agri-tech landscape? Where do you see everything going? Do you see newer agri-tech startups coming up? Basically, what will the landscape look like by 2030?
By 2030, I think the farmers will be more digitally connected. Okay, so right now the weakest link in the digital connection is the farmers themselves. Maybe the dairy companies are adopting more digitization. Maybe you are to put devices on the cattle which are being monitored by the extension services or the veterinary doctors, etc. But the farmers themselves are not that well digitally connected. I think by 2030, a lot of farmers will be digitally connected. Smartphone penetration is happening at a very fast pace in the rural areas. Even if you go to the remotest areas, at least a few people will have smartphones. There will be some kind of smartphone usage. If you come to slightly advanced states, like let's say Karnataka or Gujarat, almost every farmer in his or her household will have one smartphone today. So digital connection to the farmer, I think, will be mostly complete by 2030. And farmers will be getting different services on their phones, whether they want to buy agri inputs, whether they want advisories on their phones for their livestock, for their for their crop, etc. I think that will be much easily accessible. Farmers will be able to access credit services, cash withdrawal facilities, etc., right there in their villages. And I think also that farmers will start getting more differentiated value for their product for quality. Today, because of a lot more middlemen involved, sometimes farmers, even if they have a much better quality of yield, they may not always get that much better value for their crop. Farmers may not always see that much more profit for their crop, for the quality. I think by 2030, farmers will start really seeing a very clear difference in their income and profit based on the quality that they produce. So I think these are different things that will happen by about 2030 in India for the the rural farmers.
Looks very positive. Thank you so much, Ravi, for joining us on the show and sharing such great insights.
Yeah, it was good. I'm glad to be here and share the insights as well. And I hope that more and more investors take note of how the Indian rural market is opening up. Indian government is anyway supporting. I think bodies like NASSCOM, Startup India, etc., are supporting our agri sector startups. More investors will also come in, and I think they will give further acceleration to this journey in 2030. Thank you so much for getting me on this show today.
Thanks. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
And thus, it's a wrap of yet another insightful episode of DisruptX that wouldn't have been possible without the support of the team led by Upasana Barua. To our beautiful audience, thank you always for watching the show. Do follow us on social media. Send us your thoughts, questions, and feedback. If you have a disruptive story, please do share that with us and get featured in our Did You Know segment. Watch out and stay tuned for our future episodes under the Impact series of DisruptX.